Hey guys, this is Lorenz of the Ketones and Coffee Podcast. Make sure to subscribe down below so you don't miss out on any of this great content. This week, we have a special guest. I'm so excited for this. We have Marty Kendall joining us on the show. Marty is a well-known figure in the world of nutrition. Marty is an engineer by background and has applied his technical mind to the world of nutrition, particularly in the area of nutrient density and optimal eating. This passion was as his personal quest to help his wife, who was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. Using his engineering approach and his experience, Marty has been gathering data to help people understand what optimal nutrition means and how to achieve it. He also wrote a book titled Big Fat Keto Lies: How Keto Myths Are Stalling Your Weight Loss Progress. I'm here with none other than Marty Kendall. Marty, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, Lorenz, great to chat again, dude.
We have a bit of technical difficulties there, man, but we're going to get through this. We have been back and forth with rescheduling here and, some technical difficulties earlier, but mostly, again, from my end here. But we're glad to make it happen. We're glad to make it happen. Lots to discuss. My goal is to always, evolve. I believe we can always create a better life with the, from our current lifestyle. And we got a chance to learn from Marty on how we can further optimize our health. Your story, Marty, with your wife and how you got to this path is truly incredible. I was reading up on your story, and again, not many husbands are gonna go through the lens of what you did for your wife, and truly commendable, and I commend you for that. And you're a man on a mission.
Yeah.
Can you give us a little backstory there, and your you're engineering by training, and what has sort of sparked your interest in this field? And can you talk a little bit about what has led you through to pursue this even further?
Yeah, as you mentioned, married Monica just over 20 years ago. She's had type 1 diabetes since she was 10. Neither of us knew much about how to manage diabetes when we got married, and when we started to think about kids, we sought out a doctor that really helped us dial in carb and insulin dosing, which really helped through the pregnancies. But I was always wondering how we could dial it in further, and perhaps 10 years ago came across Rob Wolf and low carb, and then keto blew up, and I was all in on that, trying to understand everything and work out how it worked to help myself and my wife and my family dial in nutrition. And yeah, definitely it's initially looked at the food insulin index and worked out how we could use that data to rank different foods based on the amount of insulin they need in the short term, and definitely dialing back carbohydrates is a no-brainer there. The food insulin index helps us dose accurately for protein with insulin, and and that's the insulin over the short term. And as we'll talk about later, the long-term insulin, your basal insulin, is a whole different beast, which you can see up close with managing type 1 diabetes. But yeah, then realized that maybe a really high-fat, maybe even low-protein diet that might be great for therapeutic ketosis may not be the most nutritious or satiating diet. So then I took that into trying to look at nutrient density and satiety to be able to say, hey, what are your goals? Are you, like yourself, I think you're more of a therapeutic ketosis approach for mental health. If you want that, then how can we dial it in for you if you don't really need to lose weight? But a lot of people have some level of metabolic disorder, and for those people, if they're overweight and need to lose body fat, there's a different prescription for those people that focuses more on getting the nutrients you need from food, greater satiety, so you're not addicted to food, your appetite isn't out of control, and you can get control of what you eat or how much you eat by adjusting what you eat, and then improve your insulin and blood sugars through that means. And yeah, so it's just a matter of going, there's different people with different goals and different preferences, and some of them want to be carnivores, some of them want to be plant-based, some of them don't care what they eat, they'll eat anything. How can we design a diet that caters for all those people while still getting the nutrients we need. So that's the basic quest, and I think it's important, and it's great to find communities of people that want to listen, and yeah, it's been a fun journey.
It's a lot of people who, you know, would always want to keep evolving their diets, keep evolving their lifestyle, and I myself is included. That always wanting to learn about how I can get more energy, because I want to live a life of I want to be productive. I want to I have goals in the future that I want to do, and we heard people talk about biohacking and all of that, and that goes into a whole other universe there. But when we talk about just nutrient density, what's sort of the goal there, and why do people want to incorporate nutrient dense food in their lifestyle, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, fundamentally, I think why do we eat? We eat to get energy. We need energy to move around and be active, and so we need enough energy from fat or carbs. They're just energy sources, and then we need the nutrients that our body needs to thrive. You need protein, amino acids to build your muscles and repair. There's so many functions that protein does in your body, but also the vitamins, the minerals are also essential. And we were talking about Chris Palmer before on the Practice podcast, and just the way mitochondria energy production is fundamental, and micronutrients, all the different micronutrients. It's a massive rabbit hole of magnesium alone has 300 different enzymatic functions that we know about. So why not make sure your food has all the micronutrients it requires, rather than just going, I've got this multivitamin pill that I put my faith in, and I'm gonna eat trash because I've got this insurance that how many billions is the supplement industry worth? There's a lot of motivation out there to tell you that you can just take a pill and everything will be great, but you don't really see those people getting the amazing results. It's the people who change what they eat and, like you mentioned, how they sleep and their activity to get the nutrition from real food. So it's just a question of how do we get the nutrients we need without excess energy.
So you've done your research on this. You've done the data. You've looked at thousands and thousands of counts of people who have, different types of diets, and what's, how it affects their blood glucose levels. This concept just helps, give the body what it needs, and and this is tailored to individual goals, metabolism and preferences, sustainability. This is, this is just going into the nitty gritty of how the body works, precision, efficient, and in an effective manner. And that focuses on nutrient density. Can you give some examples? I know you've given a few examples there of, essential nutrients that, we miss on other diets, like the ketogenic diet, for example.
Yeah, I suppose on a ketogenic diet, it depends. What's your definition of a ketogenic diet? That's a whole nother topic. But on a therapeutic ketogenic diet, potentially it tends to be a lower protein, higher fat diet. And if those people, need more muscle mass or satiety, then maybe bumping up the protein is important to get the amino acids. It can definitely, if you're just focusing on more refined fat and maybe meat alone, it can be harder to get some of the minerals and the micronutrients. Potentially vitamin K definitely is harder to get without some non-starchy veggies. Magnesium, potassium, calcium are always important, and they're the dominant ones in our nutritional analysis that show to be satiating in themselves. So when people get more potassium per calorie, those foods tend to provide more satiety. So they're the sort of things that tend to be missing on the ketogenic end, but on the plant-based end, you're missing, omega-3 and B12 and potentially bioavailable protein as well. So each person's diet is, unique. It's got a unique fingerprint and a unique foods and meals that will fill those gaps at a micronutrient level.
Once we do fill those gaps, what does this person going through? What phase is this person going through? Like, if I okay, let's back up a little bit here. So how do we start where do you start a person? Like, let's say somebody comes to you, and how do you know my deficiencies? Do you test it, and do you audit their lifestyle? Where do we start?
Yeah, the easiest place to start, most people don't like tracking their food. It can be a necessary evil if you really want to dial things in. But we've got a bunch of food lists that sort of say, if you want to be a carnivore, here's the nutrient-dense foods. If on a carnivorous diet, or if you want to do therapeutic keto, here's a list of foods and a recipe book that we've got for all these different approaches. We've even done plant-based and diabetes management and, blood sugar and fat loss. So we've got 32 different recipe books and 70 different food lists that we give away for free in our group that people can just start there. So that's the easiest place to start, to say, these are more optimal foods that I can add into my diet. But if you really wanted to level up further, then we've got a micros masterclass where people can track their food and then they see the micronutrient gaps in their diet. You mentioned testing. I mean, once you're deficient in B12 or calcium or potassium, something's really wrong in your body, because your body works really hard to keep it in those narrow ranges. But what we want to do is say, what are you currently eating? Where are the gaps in that? And what foods and meals plug those gaps to help you get an optimized diet at the micronutrient level.
What's sort of the risk of not having all of that nutrient in place for a person? Like, let's say, what's the sort of like baseline risk there for people that are not optimized?
Why should I care about micros? I suppose from a protein point of view, that's the foundation of your diet, and you need protein to build and repair your muscles. And if you're getting a lower protein percentage diet, whether that be ultra processed food or whatever, plant-based or really high fat therapeutic, when you actually want to lose some body fat, protein leverage theory shows that we eat more to get the protein we need, but at the same time we also see a similar leverage response for different micronutrients, particularly potassium, calcium, sodium, and some of the micronutrient the vitamins as well. We seem to crave foods that contain those foods, or at least we tend to be more satiated by foods that actually contain those. So that's a longer term satiety response. But on the longer term, you can look at the Bruce Ames's triage theory, where he says basically that if you don't have enough micros in your diet, your body's going to prioritize short-term survival, just getting through today, and go, fixing that cancer that's growing in my body or whatever, to optimize for long-term longevity. It's going to say, well, I don't have enough resources to do that. I'm going to put that away until I can get the nutrients I need in my diet. So really, I think it's a long-term gain to optimize for micronutrients. And then when we talk about brain energy, mitochondrial function, Dr. Chris Palmer, macros are there to power up your mitochondria. They're critical for the function of your mitochondria to actually enable it to produce energy in the Krebs cycle. So if you're getting all the micronutrients in your diet, you've got a much better chance of feeling energetic and empowered, and having optimally functioning mitochondria.
So you did talk about the role of nutritional optimization, that can be applied to the ketogenic diet to make it more precise and efficient. For people who are on the ketogenic lifestyle, can you give us an effective approach for meeting an individual needs or goals? or is it always weight loss? Or what are other goals that people come to this program aside from weight loss? What are sort of the other goals that they have?
Yeah, I mean, for therapeutic ketosis, that's definitely a required goal, and we've designed foods and meals that meet that therapeutic ketosis sort of goal. If you've got epilepsy or Parkinson's or dementia, or talking major depression, then really focusing on dialing back your carbs, upping the fat, while still getting micronutrients is often really, really helpful. But a lot of people are coming to keto at the same time for that weight loss. They want to get their blood sugars under control, lose body fat, and improve their metabolic health. And metabolic health and body composition are really tightly related and hard to separate. So if you're carrying excess body fat, which a lot of people are, then it might be wise to go, am I getting enough protein? Am I, if I'm on a keto diet, then I've probably got my carbs dialed in, but am I getting excess fat to actually lose body fat?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because if your body will use your dietary fat first, if there's dietary fat, and then until that's all gone, that's the time when it's actually gonna tap into your body fat storage. Is that right?
Yeah, and we all eat to satiety based on what we eat, and if you change what you eat, then you can be more satiated and allow your body says, well, I'm getting the nutrients I need from the food I'm eating. I don't need to eat more. I've got plenty of stored energy. I can use that. And then you're getting ketones, endogenous ketones from your body fat, which I think is what most people want, rather than the therapeutic exogenous ketones that come from your diet that you're just, forcing in more dietary fat. So I suppose that's the differentiation. Do you want the ketones to come from the body fat or the extra dietary fat? And it's goal dependent, and there's definitely people who require a therapeutic ketogenic diet, but for those people who in our programs, at least the majority of people are looking for improved metabolic health and dialing back their body fat.
Can there be a rule of thumb for this approach? Because, or are there too many variables to account?
Yeah, it's just a matter of where am I at, what am I currently eating, and just if you're looking to stabilize your blood sugars, progressively dial back the carbohydrates. If you've got excess body fat that you want to lose, progressively dial back the dietary fat while prioritizing protein. So that's the rule of thumb is, where are you now, and let's dial it in just progressively. I suppose the rule of thumb, the general rule is don't jump from a 10% protein to 60% protein overnight, because it'll just feel awful, and you won't get the energy you need. You still need some energy. So if you're at, the majority of the population is sitting at 15% protein, try 20% protein, which is a matter of prioritizing protein while dialing back carbs and fat a little. How do I feel? Am I making the progress I want? If not, then just tweak it a little bit each week by incorporating more nutritious foods into your diet. And then a couple of months later, you'll be going, yeah, this is great. I can sustain it. I've reached my goal, and then I can bring back energy from carbs and potentially fat if you're really like the ketogenic diet and need the stable blood sugars.
Yeah, no, like I said in our first recording, as long as the food is delicious, like that's what we care about.
Yeah, and nutritious food can be really amazingly delicious because it contains what your body needs. But we live in an environment where we've created these Franken foods that blow our dopamine circuits out of the water, and we've lost taste. We can't taste the nutrients, the nutritious foods anymore. They're going, oh, that tastes really bland. Give me the, all the hyperpalatable junk food that we've become so accustomed to. It's a great business model, but not great for health.
Yeah. No, not exactly. Like for me, once I switched my mindset from I don't want to I can't from I can't have that to I don't want that. That's when everything changed for me. Like I said, we talked about how I was, I suffered from chronic anxiety and major depression, and ever since, I actually started a ketogenic diet for weight loss, and after a couple of weeks, I did lose the weight. After a few months, I lost the weight. I met the goal, but I gained so much energy, so much, brain fog is gone, and basically the symptoms of depression dissipated.
Yeah.
And ever since then, it became an obligation for me to talk about this. Now, that's why I love having you here, because we can dial it back in even more and be more specific, more precise with what we're eating here. And you talked about how we can apply this to your lifestyle. If you're living a ketogenic diet, ketogenic lifestyle for therapy or for weight loss, you can make it more efficient and work for you even better, and getting your the nutrients, the essential nutrients in, will help you more get to that goal even faster than just focusing on one thing, right?
Dialing
awesome.
back the carbohydrates.
Is there anything that we miss? That
I was just thinking, dialing back the
yeah.
carbohydrates to get off that blood sugar roller coaster is massive for anxiety and depression. Really helps, and it has been massively helpful for my wife to live a life that she really loves living, rather than just always being on that roller coaster that leaves her feeling awful.
Hey Ketones crew, if you want to work with me, I just released my one-on-one 60-minute consultation where we will take a deeper dive into your health journey and formulate a plan where you can incorporate the ketogenic diet to fit your lifestyle. If you're interested, take control of your health today. Click the link on the description box below, and let's get started. Let's talk about her results for a second here. Now, I know people with type 1 diabetes, they're, for people that doesn't know, it's when your pancreas doesn't make insulin anymore. So what happens is when you're eating a high carb diet, your blood sugar goes up, and you have the role of insulin is to store your energy into your cells. That becomes that's how the body regulates its blood sugar. And when you're not making any more insulin, your body becomes more, your blood sugar raises. Is that right? Or can you explain that? Maybe you can explain that better than I can.
It's been fascinating my son was diagnosed with type 1 just over a year ago as well. So we've got 2 CGMs that I'm watching and managing their insulin dosing and helping them tweak everything each week. And it's been a massive learning experience. For type 1s, they get to a point where you get an autoimmune response that attacks the pancreas. And then the beta cells of the pancreas stop producing insulin. So that really, I now think of insulin rather than something that pushes energy into the body. Rather, it holds the energy in storage. So you've got all this fat in your body fat and glycogen in your liver. And when insulin is low, that is released into your bloodstream. But when you've got a lot of energy in your body, the insulin has to raise to keep the stored energy in storage while you keep eating. So if a type 1 becomes type 1, their blood sugars just keep on rising and rising. You get to a point where you've got high glucose, high ketones and high fat in your blood. You've just got this energy toxicity in your blood, diabetic ketoacidosis, and without that insulin, they'll waste away and die in a matter of months. I mean, we don't see many people, fortunately, die of type 1 in the short term these days. But it's a fairly serious condition. But the general guidance is just eat normally and dose with insulin for it, and try to count your carbs, and try to bolus beforehand. But it's impossible to match the response of the insulin with the response of the carbs. It's just a signal processing nightmare that you can never perfectly dial it in. So for someone on who's got type 1, dialing back the carbohydrates is just a no-brainer, because then you can dose for that carbohydrate more accurately. You can manage the insulin response to protein over the longer term, and then fat, which has some insulin response over the longer term, is really easily managed with long-acting insulin. Or now both my wife and son are on a closed-loop insulin pump system, which just continually changes the basal rates based on their blood sugars. So if they're not overeating carbohydrates, the blood sugars can be amazingly well dialed in, because it's just small tweaks continually through the day and night, which is a much better way to live than on that roller coaster.
So if a type 1 doesn't eat anything that raises their blood sugar, is there a need for insulin? If you can explain that to people.
Why? Definitely. About 20 to 30% of the insulin requirement per day for someone on a lower carb diet, a keto diet, is for the food that they're eating. But the 80%, 70 to 80% is their basal insulin, which just works to hold their energy in storage. So if they didn't have that basal insulin, then all their energy would just leach out into the blood. And it's the same with all of us who have got a functioning pancreas. Most of the insulin our body produces is just to hold that energy in storage. So if you want to improve your insulin resistance, reverse insulin toxicity, it's about, dialing back the carbs in your diet is definitely a no-brainer, because that does reduce the insulin requirement a fair bit. My wife went from 60 units to 30 units, but then the next step is to say, well, if most of my insulin is the basal insulin, how can I attack that? The bigger I am, the more insulin I need to hold more energy in storage. Let's, prioritize a higher satiety diet, maybe dial back the dietary fat, prioritize adequate protein, and then you can lose weight, and then your basal insulin drops as well. So understanding basal and bolus was a bit of a light bulb moment for me, that I realized, hey, we're all focusing on minimizing carbs, and fat's a free food, but fat over the longer term contributes to body fat, which contributes to your basal insulin, and potentially you can become more insulin resistant if you just believe that you can eat unlimited bulletproof coffees and butter and chase high ketones. But really what happens is that fat's being stored, and your insulin is rising to keep all that body fat in storage.
Man, I imagine when you were, you have an engineering background, how were you making sense of this? And obviously there's your wife's data that you're comparing to thousands and thousands of people. What's I guess the question is, what were you experiencing at that time? And is there excitement that you're making sense of this in from having an engineering background, understanding the charts and graphs? What was going through your mind at the time?
Yeah, it's fascinating, because I was deep in keto world at the time, and the massive social media movement blowing up, and lots of things being discussed there about insulin and blood sugars and what to eat, and avoiding protein because it spikes insulin, and rah. And I'm looking at the data and what I'm seeing my wife's pump every day, and it doesn't match up, and then I've got 140,000 days of data from our optimizers, from 40,000 optimizers, people using Nutrient Optimizer, and just trying to understand it and make sense of it and close out the disparities. And it's like, well, I've got the data, I can analyze it and clarify it for myself and share it. And been lucky to have a small group of people who are really get it and have helped educate me, Ted Naiman and R.D. Dykman and a bunch of guys, and they follow Richard Bernstein, who's a guru in type 1, and everything he says is proved to be right, and survived all the different fads that come and go. And it's just been, hey, I want to share this and say, hey, if you're not getting the results you want, here's how you can fine tune it, here's maybe what's going on, here's what we see in real human data. We've got the data that we can share and clarify exactly what you need to do to get the results that you want if you're not getting them yet.
Yeah, and there's a lot of we need to clarify on the type 1 diabetes side, because there's a lot of people who really doesn't know, even though no, the person that gets diagnosed doesn't really know what they're got diagnosed on. And my dad, he got diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, doesn't even know the difference between type 1 and type 2. He
Yeah,
just thinks
yeah,
that it's, it just runs in the family. I guess, if the doctor says I'll just take this pill, I'll take this pill
yeah,
and,
yeah.
get on to my merry life. But which is amazing for you to clarify about, what type 1 is and what sort of steps you took, for your wife, so she can live an optimized life,
Yeah.
which is, a great, great, great thing for you to do. Talk to us about the book, Big
Yeah,
Fat Keto Lies. There was 12 lies there that was highlighted on your book, which the book aims to correct them and guide readers to fine-tune their diets to achieve their
yeah.
health goals. What was your motivation behind writing Big Fat Keto Lies, and what was the intended outcome for the readers here?
Yeah, as I said, I was just entrenched in low carb keto world, and a lot of us, a small group of us, were going, "Hey, this is not what it seems to be." And now a lot of people are sort of coming out of hardcore keto and moving towards, let's get the nutrients we need. Let's prioritize satiety if weight loss is a goal, rather than just doubling down on the fat. But yeah, it started from my blog and what I was trying to explain, and then I in a Facebook group, Optimizing Nutrition Facebook group, I said, what are the most popular misunderstandings in keto world, and came up with the top 12 that I took all my blog posts and arranged them to sort of try to clarify, hey, this is what a lot of people say, and this is, what the data shows, and what we're finding, what we're learning. And I just want to share it with people to help clarify, and for those people who are in that rut and not getting the results they wanted, like I was, and see a lot of people, this is how I see it from the data from type 1 diabetes world, which directly applies to everybody else and how the insulin actually functions in their body.
So would you like to tackle, any one of these right now? Give us the context.
Pick a few.
Hmm?
Pick a few.
I'll pick a few, not all of it. Give us, first of all, I'll give you the lie, right?
Yep.
And then
I'll give
you
a
give
summary
the
of this one.
context for people, and then
Yep.
what's the truth.
Yeah, sure.
All right, so
Rapid
all right,
fire
you
then.
have to be in ketosis to burn fat.
Yeah, well,
You have to be in ketosis to burn fat.
As I alluded to before, a lot of people thought you just need high ketones, and if you're not losing body fat, you need to eat more fat to get high ketones. But are those ketones coming from your third bulletproof coffee with all the butter and MCT oil, or are they coming from your body fat? I think that's important to understand. Most people want ketones to be coming from their body fat, and that's where the magic of longevity and weight loss come from. All the positive things attributed to ketosis really come from when you're burning your own body fat in somewhat of an energy deficit, moving towards a better body composition. So yeah, a lot of people don't find they get optimal body composition results by doubling down and chasing higher and higher ketones.
Okay, that's a good one. Calories don't count. That's one big one.
Yeah. Well, I think we suck at counting calories. If you just say, I'm going to eat less than 1,800 calories a day, but I'm eating pizza and donuts, you're going to get really hungry and end up binging and overeating because they've got such a low satiety value. But energy balance, thermodynamics is still a thing. But the way your body manages energy, uses energy, is incredibly complex that we can't really track it just by tracking calories. But if we track macros to make sure you're getting enough protein without excess fat or carbs, then you improve satiety, and for maximum results, dial in the nutrient density, which satisfies your cravings at that micronutrient level. So just tracking calories sucks, and most people don't win at it, but it doesn't mean energy balance is not a thing.
All right, last line. By the way, if you guys are interested in getting this book, it's called Big Fat Keto Lies. It's on Amazon, and it just came out. This is by Marty Kendall, the great Marty Kendall here. All right, last. We'll link everything down below, right, guys?
Thanks, man.
We'll put it in the link. Yes, so fasting for longer is better. Great segue.
Yeah, I did the fasting thing pretty hardcore for a while, and the problem with a few problems with the extended fasting mentality is, we believe we're getting this magic autophagy through fasting, but vault along those rats that fasted for so many days when one rat day is 40 human days. So if you go, they fasted the rats to get autophagy for 7 days, and one rat day is how long do I have to fast? Well, that's 280. Oh wow, that's a long time I have to fast to get that autophagy. And as soon as you stop eating, as soon as you start eating again, what are you going to eat? You gravitate to the most energy dense, nutrient poor foods. So you may be healthier at the end of the fast, but as soon as you rebound binge after that, you get to a outrageous appetite.
Yes.
That I think a lot of people struggle to make long-term progress when they're starving themselves, sending the body a starvation signal, and that leads to dysregulated hunger signals and poorer food choices.
Yeah.
So basically, if you're leaving it so long to eat that you make poorer food choices, you're probably going too long. And that's where we created data-driven fasting that just uses your blood sugar as a fuel gauge to say, do you need to eat now? What do you need to eat? If your blood sugar's low, time to eat. If it's below what's normal for you, great. It's definitely time to eat. If it's a little bit higher and you're hungry, then you probably need protein, not energy. And if your blood sugar's really low, then maybe a little bit of carb to bump it back up, and maybe eat a little bit more and not fast for so long in the future that your blood sugar gets to an emergency state.
You talk about is that the 30-day challenge?
Yeah, we've got a
Data-driven
data-driven fasting program. We've been running the macros masterclass and micros masterclass for about 5 years, but then started data-driven fasting, where it was just like use your blood sugar as a fuel gauge, and it completely blew up and changed my life. And I had tons and tons of people do it, and we're up to round 21 that's starting in February. So it's that just really helps people to go, do I really need to eat? Are my hunger signals valid? And they get to eat a couple of times a day, maybe more, based on their blood sugar, rather than having to fast for days at a time, and then often losing touch with their true hunger signals. So it's about going, let's get to know your hunger. Let's understand what your inner lizard brain wants. And once you make friends with your hunger and understand it, you can give your body actually what it needs, rather than going, I hate my body, I'm just going to deprive it. I want to lose all this weight, I'm just going to starve it. It's like, no. You need to give your body what it actually needs when it needs it, so you can get where you want to go in the long term.
So this is basically knowing your body, but using data.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you can't hear the body, basically.
Totally. So our modern food system just drowns out our appetite signals. If we're always eating the Twinkies and pizza and donuts, we've just got this massively high dopamine response, and we can't actually sense our cravings. We always feel like we're addicted to food, and give me Wegovy and semaglutide so I can. You're addicted to the food, and then you're addicted to these weight loss drugs that you'll be on for life that cost the world. So it's a pretty scary situation. But I want to say, well, the things that improve GLP-1 and your insulin resistance are healthy, nutritious foods, and you can choose those more intentionally, and then you'll actually understand your true hunger signals.
Yeah, nowadays you can't really trust your hunger signals. But now we can use data, right, to know if and when we should eat, right?
Yeah.
And so what's the difference between your fast? Yeah.
Oh, I was just
go
gonna
ahead,
say it's
Marty. Sorry.
important to use just a little bit of data, because you're talking about biohacking before, and lots of people want all the data and the CGMs and the heart rate monitors, and I'm going to stack 20 different data tracking devices on myself, and then your brain just explodes. You might understand it, a little bit cognitively, but then your lizard brain, your survival signals go, what is this crap? I'm going to rebel. And the best long-term progress just comes from using a little bit of data to guide you progressively towards your goals. So yeah, minimal effective dose of data is an important concept.
All right. I got you back.
Yeah.
Marty? Yeah.
Yep,
I didn't hear the last part, but it's recorded. Don't worry. It's recording on your side, so it's okay. All right. So we talked about what's the difference between you talked about when on this fasting challenge you can eat when your body tells you to eat. You don't necessarily have to fast for 30 days. What other differences does it have from other fasting programs?
Yeah, I mean, you've got the extended fasting that says, you have to not eat for a week or 2 days or whatever arbitrary approach, or you've got the window fasting methods that, so-and-so on TikTok said it's best to eat between these set windows, but that just because it worked for somebody else doesn't mean it works for you and your unique metabolism. It's like saying, your friend said the best time to refuel is every Thursday morning at 8 a.m., but you've got a different car and have to drive a different length to work, and it'd be ridiculous. But if you can just use your blood glucose using a standard glucose meter, you don't even need a CGM to say, what's my glucose before I eat? Typically, what's the average? And then all I need to do is get just below that to the point that you actually need to refuel. And by just using that continuously and using progressive overload, and in the data-driven fasting app, the pre-meal glucose trigger lowers progressively as you do well, as you succeed, and it just makes it a little bit harder, and you just continue to dial in what and when you eat, and you learn how different things affect your blood sugars, and go, well, I'm not going to eat that again because it did that, and I had to wait so long before I could eat again before it returned to normal, or that food boosted my blood sugars way higher. I knew it was dumb, but now I know it's really dumb, and it doesn't work for my metabolism and gives me more carbohydrate than I need. So yeah, people are just fascinated by learning how to use their glucose to guide what and when they eat, and yeah, it's just fun to see people thrive with that.
So they're tracking their blood glucose and how it contributes to optimizing their eating habits.
Yeah.
So basically, you eat when so what sort of number are we looking at in terms of like when people know how to use their glucose monitor here? What sort of number do we have to look at?
It's personalized to you. So in the first 3 days, you say, you just track your personal glucose before you eat, and you take the average of that over 3 days, and that's your trigger for the next 27 days of the challenge, and you just try to wait until you get below that and say, yeah, I'm definitely hungry, I need to eat. But if your blood sugar is a little bit higher, it's, maybe you're legitimately hungry, but you need protein, not energy from fat or carbs. So you'd try to prioritize a higher protein percentage at that point. And then if your blood sugar is below your trigger, then it's time to eat normally and enjoy a good meal. So.
And then you're guiding them throughout this process.
Yeah, we've got a data-driven fasting app that they use to track the glucose and gives them feedback. And then we do it in a group. We've got about 700 people in the current challenge. And we have live Q&As on the weekends and daily lessons and chats in the group, and people get to ask things all the time. People can use the app by themselves, but we always find people have the best success when they do it together and ask all the questions. It's quite a simple process, but your body's completely fascinating, and there's a lot of questions that come up when people start to check their blood sugars and say, I don't understand, help me, what does this mean and why did this happen? And yeah, so people get better success when they get those answers.
You talk about success. What can you discuss some of the benefits, the results that individuals didn't expect to see or expected to see after completing the challenge? What do they sort of the first timers at least?
Yeah, I suppose the main goal that a lot of people come in with is sustainable weight loss. People who have come from a extended fasting background and they realize, hey, I can eat, a couple of times a day, maybe more, and still make progress. And I don't have to be fasting for a long time straight out of the gate. It eases you into the process, and once you get to understand your blood sugars, it gets a little bit harder, and you have to try to eat a little bit better, and they realize that, hey, this food affects my blood sugar like this, and protein in the morning always really helps to eat. If you're hungry, eat protein earlier in the day, and then maybe you can eat a little bit more energy later at night when your blood sugar's low. A lot of people find that their blood sugars drift down during the day, and they get to understand how to fuel for their exercise, and so it's just that they learn their unique metabolism, and a lot of people get really fascinated by that.
That's awesome. I would definitely check this out. And
check it out, man. I'd love to have you in it.
Yeah, I'm very, very fascinated by it and how it can affect that. There's a lot of information that they're talking about here that I'm actually learning for the first time, and I'm in your group already, and how does one join this is there still time to join for February?
February 25th is the next round of data-driven fasting. We've got optimizing nutrition group in Mighty Networks. We've moved all our courses into Mighty Networks, which is just really good. It's a really amazing community of about 7,000 people who just are all interested and fascinated by the same stuff. So you can come in there and get the food lists and the meal plans and a whole bunch of free stuff to try and get you in. We've got a data-driven fasting 101 course to just get people accustomed to it. And then if they want to join a challenge, we run 8 data-driven fasting challenges a year, 5 macros courses, and 4 micros masterclasses a year. So people come in and check it out and become part of the community and just keep on going. The different courses work for different goals and different people, and sometimes people say, oh, I'm ready to try micros, but most people thrive when they start with just simple data-driven fasting.
Did you envision yourself just when you started doing this to doing this now?
No.
There's a lot.
I did have a moment when I looked at the data and the nutrient density and the satiety stuff, and I went, this is really big. I'm somebody's going to care about this, so I've just kept sharing it. Some days it's like, is anybody listening? And some days it's like, this is great. A lot of people are thriving with it, and I'm changing lives. So that's the most fulfilling thing, is just when you see people in the groups going, this is working, this is great. Wish I'd known this earlier. Yeah. And that's really my fuel.
I love it because it's tailoring to somebody's needs, right? We all are different. I believe in no keto cookie approach. Cookie cutter approach.
No keto cookies. You've heard it here first with Lorenz.
Keto cookie cutter approach. I can't talk today. And absolutely amazing what you've talked about here, and just dialing into, I believe in nutrient density. Absolutely, you always have to eat nutrient dense foods that are delicious, right? It has to be sustainable for you. If it's not sustainable, if you eat a certain way for 7 days and then get off it, it doesn't really help, right? But
totally. You want to just progressively add new foods that you want to try and enjoy, and then the
Yeah.
less optimal foods fall off your list, and you go, okay, I don't mind this, and I've actually enjoyed the taste, and they contain the nutrients I needed, and my body loves it. I'll try something a bit more adventurous. You don't have to go from zero to hero, and it's always, yeah, that's definitely not the best approach. It's just progressively improving a little bit each day.
All right, Marty, can you let our listeners know where can people find you? Where can they join the program? And then where can they get your book?
Yeah, Big Fat Keto Lies out on Amazon, so check it out there. It's, in the charts, which is really exciting, and got a bunch of good reviews so far, which is really satisfying. Love people to check it out. It's super cheap, and we just wanted people to read it and learn about. It's basically our manifesto for nutritional optimization and all the different moving parts from the keto perspective, because that's where I was when I wrote it. Then we've got Optimizing Nutrition, the website, optimizingnutrition.com, and then you can just jump into our community, Optimizing Nutrition community. If you go to the website, you'll find links to join the community, and we've got a bunch of free introductory stuff, and then you can join a challenge where we hold your hand later on and guide you through the process. It's a awesome community. I love it. I love waking up every day and checking out what's going on, and yeah, we all learn from each other so much.
Awesome, Marty. You're impacting a lot of people with
Thanks, Steve.
coming on the show today, and I root for you, and I will try to join one of your challenges and learn more about this. Is really important for me. I'm gotta really listen to this and go at it with a beginner's mind. I myself, always want to optimize. I don't want to be in the same position like yesterday, right? We always want to improve, right? And this is one of those topics that I am going get into the rabbit hole and learn more about, right? Thank you so much, Marty, for coming on and sharing your story, for being so patient with me, and we'll hope we do this again soon.
Yeah, that'd be great. It's definitely worth it. Really enjoyed
All
the
right.
chat. Thanks, Lorenz.
All right, Marty.